Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, welcome into the program. Today on the show, we have computer and technology news, and early warning, this is going to be a fairly heavy segment on Russia, Ukraine, and a lot of the technology that's happening, a lot of the technology headlines that are happening around that whole issue. So if you are completely sick of that, then we recommend this may not be the show for you, but we'll try to keep it light and, hands off politics, but there are factual happenings. So we will be reporting on those lightly. So everyone, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, past shows, future shows, everything you need to know. You can find it right there. Podcast, live video stream, join us in our Twitch chat. You can bother us in person in real time. Highly recommend that. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news, brought to you by Computer America. And before we get started, I actually want to bring up the story on the show before I go any further. And River, I see your message there. But I just want to let everyone know that sometimes even doing a program like this and seeing weird things, reporting weird things, and just having strange things happen to you, sometimes you still get strange things that catch your attention. And one of them for me personally was this email that we actually initiated. So it wasn't completely, kind of foreign to us, but checking the dates that the email chain kind of sent with, I did not recall this company whatsoever, and that's not uncommon because, a lot of things slip my mind, but the email chain was started in 2016, and I just now received another correspondence from this person who said, we just received an invoice from our corporate office or whatever. Click this link. It was a Dropbox link, and it legitimately did go to Dropbox, and they gave us a code as well. And I couldn't imagine anything more sketchier, except I noticed that the company domain that, when we dealt with them, it was a .com, and then now they're dealing with a .ir, which, for those who don't know the country domain .ir, that's a little known country called Iran. And Iran, let's put it this way. If you deal with Iran, you kind of sort of get hit with government, fines for trying to evade, not an embargo, but, they have sanctions against that country. So I thought I was bad at getting back to people when I take, a couple of days, a couple of weeks, whatever it may be. Man, to know that someone dug through their email system and randomly chose our email chain 6 years afterwards. Think about how much technology has changed in 6 years. That seemed fishy, and I don't know what they were really going for. I can only assume someone had compromised their system and they were trying to, just infect as many systems as they can to get people to purposely click these links. But wow, that one was so strange because, again, it was a continuation of a conversation we already had with them as Computer America. So I thought I brought that, I thought I would bring that up because it was just so strange that, I thought it would make a fun little story. So be careful who you click links on, check email chain dates, make sure that, especially if someone tells you, click on this link and download this file, boy, be ultra cautious when it comes to that because it's, they can make it look like something that you specifically asked for. And let me tell you, it's sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference, but just be careful out there and be safe. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into some of this technology news. And I think the best way to jump into this, we'll cram all the Ukraine stuff in the beginning, and then we'll move on to other stuff. But most of it is going to be for Ukraine. So let's start off with this one, and it's actually kind of very interesting. Check this out. Google Maps, the live traffic view, showed the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And you can see an image here where it shows real-time traffic jams because, sources like Waze and other companies, they kind of show, if there's a traffic jam in an area, that information has to be immediate to be at all useful. No one cares that there was a traffic jam 4 hours ago. People care that there's a traffic jam in real time. And, Google tracked that and determined that, during that traffic jam, what Google didn't know was that was Russian tanks rolling down the street and stopping traffic. So who knows? Maybe Waze was the best way to track troop movement. So this is from Dr. Jeffrey Lewis over on Twitter, saying, according to Google Maps, there's a traffic jam at 3:15 in the morning on the road from Russia to Ukraine. It starts exactly where we saw a Russian formation of armor APCs show up yesterday. Someone's on the move. Exactly. So, yep. And they mentioned that I think that we were the first people to see the invasion. We saw it in a traffic app. Hours before Vladimir Putin had announced a special military operation, a region in eastern Ukraine had declared independence earlier in the week, foreshadowing the potential invasion. But the traffic buildup that he was seeing on Google Maps was across the border from a different region of Ukraine, north of Kharkiv. The traffic jam slowly extended to the border where it then disappeared. And you can even see another image of what that looks like there. Very, very curious how, and actually even more so, the traffic alerts were from Russia itself. As soon as they hit the border to Ukraine, the traffic jam disappeared, but it obviously showed that Russia was causing this traffic jam on their side, and you could see where it was heading. Now, he said that this wasn't as simple as them loading up Google Maps and seeing a traffic jam, and they said that they were also using optical and radar satellite imagery taken days before. And on Tuesday, they had a radar picture taken by Capella Space, a company that provides satellite imagery, showing Russian armored and heavy vehicles lined up in a column ready to move, saying that we all looked at the picture and we were like, oh no, it's come. Well, actually, I can say that now. I have this. They said, we all looked at the picture and it was like, oh shit, it's all coming. And by the way, I think I'm supposed to not say the word, but we'll bleep it out anyways. As they were monitoring the unit, they noticed the traffic jam, and it's the prior work of knowing that there's a giant Russian armored unit sitting right there that allows us to say, oh, I know what the traffic jam is. So there you go. Now, Google Maps live traffic data works by incorporating location and speed information from Android phones. This led many commenters responding to his tweet to assume that Russian soldiers left their phones on. By the way, we are already seeing videos and troop movement and, so much like everyone has a smartphone and soldiers are not leaving them at home. They're taking them with them. They're filming this. They are posting this to social media in real time because let's face it, a lot of the soldiers are probably kids, they're probably 18, 19, 20-year-olds that are fighting for, that are going to fight this war. And never before, in Vietnam, never before in World War II, never before in, not even like the Iraq War for many, many years have we had smartphones in everyone's pocket. And think about how each one is its own devastating tracking device and recording device and just a massive leak of information. And it looks like, Russian soldiers are not turning them off. They're not leaving them home. No, they're taking them with them. And that kind of data is, that kind of data is going to show situations like this. So Google did not immediately respond to requests for the observations, and they're saying that I think big data companies often don't want to face squarely how useful their data can be. Saying, I mean, it's cool when we do it right. It's maybe less cool if the Russians were able to do something similar to you or spotting the offensive from Ukrainians. As of this writing, Google Maps is showing a road closure along the road that they show here, the ring road around Kharkiv. So, I'm sure the Russian government has told Google to do that. But still, very interesting thing that just an everyday feature of what we do is now front and center for the world to see and kind of watch this active invasion of Ukraine. It's very, very curious. Now, speaking of that, like I said, we're going to front load this with all the Ukraine stuff and then get to a couple more later stories. Let's go ahead and move over to this one. And this one is from Reuters, saying that Ukraine lobbies U.S. officials for bans on Russia software, aviation, and that is from the official diplomat from Ukraine. So we're not going to get into the exact wordings of the article, but I do want to kind of point out that some of the suggested actions in the 14-point memo that the Ukrainian diplomat sent to the U.S., saying that expelling Russian ambassadors worldwide, removing Russia from UN Security Council, and others such as ban on supply of any goods, including hardware and software, to Russia's oil, gas, coal mining, and nuclear sectors would be tall orders. So clearly, as of the time of this recording, we don't know the full list of sanctions that are going to be hit with Russia, but it did kind of get us thinking here before the show, what happens when software that is updated continuously and used by people in the government, around the government, everyday citizens in Russia, what happens when you have a security update? iOS patch 15.4. What happens when that goes out? Can you really ban any IP address coming from Russia and prevent it from updating? Or do you go about it like, some of the malware that we've seen and say, oh, the default language is in Russian. We don't serve Russians here anymore. Deny the update. And then when you deny updates, when you have a conflict like this, does the U.S. government tap into its relationships with companies here in the U.S. that service so much of the software out there? Do they say, keep sending updates, but allow us backdoors into Russian equipment? Which would be a huge violation of, so many privacy and security. But of course, times of conflict are a little bit different than times of peace. Do you deny them all resources and let their technology slowly become more and more obsolete to the point where it's easier to hack and prevent prevent the country from doing what it needs to do to maintain its infrastructure? What are the roles of companies that have an ongoing relationship with not just other entities within Russia, but the citizens of Russia? It's very confusing. Like we've never been more interconnected as a society than we are. And I think Russia's going to be if there's ever going to be aggression and if there's ever going to be retaliation for any kind of aggression, what is the consequence of taking this super interwoven technology fueled society that we live in and putting immense pressure on all those relationships that you have set up? Because you can't function in today's global economy without being tied with technology in some way. Very, very curious to see how that actually goes. And real quick, let's go ahead and click this real quick. This might be this is back in January. So, U.S. rejects Russian demand to bar Ukraine from NATO. Yeah, but this was back in January, and the wheels of NATO are slow turning. So this whole thing fell apart. Well, it didn't fall apart, but, Ukraine joining NATO, I think, if anything, might have prompted the fact that Russia invaded them now before they joined NATO. So, but that is, that's about a month old, so we can't really talk about that. But still, sanctions against Russia involving software updates. Is that the right move? Is that the play? I don't know, but it's a very, very confusing time. And of course, they're even talking about aviation as well. So that could be, that could put passenger planes at risk. I am curious, very curious to see what the reaction is from the White House and from other NATO and EU states. It's going to be, this is going to be the big test when this happens. Okay, so there's that. Our next one, let's go ahead and talk about this one from Ars Technica. And speaking of a hard decision, Twitter has been making a couple headlines because this conflict, this escalation, this war, invasion, whatever you want to call it, is being live tweeted. And we had a story the other day about how Russian propaganda is going out there. They had examples of, let's see, I think there was one that Russia painted some kind of armored personnel carrier. They painted it to look like a Russian. Russia painted the armored personnel carrier to look like a Ukrainian forces piece of equipment. They bombed it and said, "Hey, we just found this. So many. On the Russian side of the border in this province, whatever." And Russia was using that as propaganda to show that Ukraine was being aggressive. Twitter did what Twitter does best. They went through, found the video footage, used either just intuition, satellite imaging. They used a lot of different things to kind of pick this thing apart. And within just a couple of hours, they determined that the piece of equipment destroyed, Ukraine does not use that. They don't own any of those. It was due to the local surroundings, the mountains, and other geographical features featured in the video. The actual location was, 30 or 40 miles away in a different part inside Russia. And they showed like a number of other things to show that, hey, this was a completely manufactured video for the sake of propaganda. And it only took a couple of hours, It did not take long for that to be picked apart and determined that, hey, this is fake. And that's going to be a continuing theme here in that, this whole thing is going to be live tweeted. And that's a very curious development. So having to deal with that, you now have social media, in particular Twitter, being the one that's going to have to police a lot of this. And you end up with headlines like this, saying that Twitter admits it mistakenly removed Ukraine open source intelligence accounts. Saying that Twitter said it had mistakenly suspended the accounts of open source intelligence reporters posting about Russia's military buildup around Ukraine, leading to many of them accusing the Russian state of launching a bot campaign against them. So based on publicly available satellite imagery, open source reporters have used social media to supply a steady commentary on the activities of Russian forces near the Ukrainian border, providing a valuable alternative source to Western intelligence reports. And I gotta say, again, all of it is in real time. All of it is open source. You can go look up this information yourself. It doesn't need to be verified because, well, it can be verified. Well, okay, I said that wrong. It doesn't have to be verified by anyone else because you can go find the information yourself and verify it yourself. It's very, very timely. Now, They mentioned something saying that this is an attack on journalism and people who rely on these accounts to post facts over other news outlets. And, well, Twitter said were suspended almost simultaneously, fed suspicion on a Russian operation. Russia often uses proxy groups in its cyber operations to deny knowledge of an attack, even though the groups are believed to be Western officials and cyber experts to act for Moscow. Now, saying that a number of individuals saw their accounts locked at exactly 11:51 UTC last night. And I would say that a lot of this would have to be Twitter bots, mainly Russian Twitter bots, that likely mass reported a lot of these accounts. And Twitter's first reaction, as always, as with, a lot of social media, is that, hey, we just got 10,000 reports on these 12 accounts. Their first reaction is to take the accounts down, suspend them, investigate, and then either let it go through or, take it back up. Twitter's just being safe, and people are going to really look into this and go, oh, these automated systems are working against our interest. This is Twitter taking Russia's side or something. Let's face it, Twitter wanted to connect you to your friends and so you could talk about football or whatever. Now they're suddenly headline making in the war between Ukraine and Russia. That's a hard place to be, but it's a place that they unfortunately are going to have to. So, if you want the latest updates on the Ukraine conflict, it seems like Twitter is, really the place to be. So there's that one. And I think the last one between Ukraine and Russia that we're really going to talk about, which we might actually not. Ukraine government website's down. Okay, so just a little update. We talked about this yesterday with Scott Schober and the day before that. But accompanying all of this, you have Russia launching or continuing to launch devastating denial of service attacks on sources of information, the Ukrainian government, on Ukrainian banking apps and other services that everyday Ukrainians are trying to access to, get access to your money, get access to information, and Russia knows we can take all these down with DDoS attacks. Now, that's not to say that Russia isn't feeling the pressure as well, because, I don't know who exactly is launching it, but supposedly, there are also Russian websites that are taken down intermittently due to presumably DDoS attacks of their own. And I could totally imagine, let's face it, if random 13-year-olds can take down entire school districts by paying someone to DDoS, the school district website, I can totally believe random activists, or random hacktivists, I should say, would take it upon themselves to DDoS Russia as well. So it doesn't take much. It's very simple, very effective, as we mentioned before. But yeah, it's physical conflict is going to be accompanied by digital warfare. And this is going to be one for the history books because, again, this is what anyone who wants to start future conflict is going to look like, and what the response could look like, because we've never really had this happen before. This is new times. Okay. All that being said, we're going to, let's see. Do I have one for this? We're going to hit the reset button. I have one here, right? Okay, everyone, we're going to start anew. That's all the Ukrainian, Russian stuff. And now we're going to take a deep breath, calming effect, and we're going to start the second part of this of our stories, where we talk about some lighter stuff. So everyone, deep breath and restart. Okay, now part number 2. Let's talk about Tonga. I know, right? Tonga. It's been a while. We missed you. Well, Tonga missed you too, because Tonga is back online after a 5-week internet outage. For those who completely forgot, Tonga had a little bit of a volcano knock out their internet. They had only like 1 or 2 lines of fiber optic internet cable, that was essentially the size of like a massive extension cable that traveled 514 miles to the South Pacific nation of Fiji. Well, their volcano kind of sort of maybe destroyed the cable, and it took 20 days to replace a 57-mile section of the cable that had suffered multiple breaks during it. However, not all of Tonga has internet access yet. The domestic cable that connects the main island of Tonga Tapu to its outlying neighbors suffered damage during the tsunami as well. The Tonga Cable CEO told Reuters that it could take 6 to 9 months to complete the necessary repairs, with a cable shortage delaying the work, saying that, well, we just don't have enough cable. And after replacing 57 miles of it, I believe it. So the fact that it only took 5 weeks for Tonga to get back online is thanks to telecommunication companies from neighboring islands that shared cabling with the country when it ran out of its own supply. So there you go. Only took 20 days, and at least the main island is back up and running. So that's definitely good news. Good news indeed. Okay, so story number, well, let's see, that was technically story number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 5. Story number 6, though. How about this? A strained relationship, this time between EA and FIFA. Who knew? So for those who don't know, FIFA is this soccer organization, and they happen to license the FIFA brand to EA, and they come out with a new game every single year. Well, looks like in leaked comments, EA says FIFA license is holding back soccer game development, because the running joke is that they changed the names, changed the faces, but in reality released the same game over and over and over again. So going all the way back to 1993, you have seen FIFA branded soccer games been released. All the way back on the Sega Genesis back in 93. Last October, EA publicly confirmed that it had been reviewing our naming rights agreement with FIFA because it has gotten so egregious. So shortly after that announcement, the New York Times reported that FIFA was asking EA to double the nearly $150 million it pays annually for those licensing rights. There you go. So FIFA, the organization, was really wringing as much money out of that deal as they possibly could. It's very concerning. Well, now FIFA's reported licensing ask of over $1 billion for every 4-year World Cup cycle is significant, even for a series that recently brought in $1.62 billion a year. So they're asking $250 million per year, or $1 billion per 4-year World Cup cycle. And yeah, that's don't get me wrong, FIFA makes a lot of money. FIFA Soccer and EA make a lot of money. They make about $1.6 billion on microtransactions alone. They can afford it, but is it worth the money? And in the comments that were leaked, again, these were never meant to be made public, so we're going to report on them, saying that basically, quote, what we get from FIFA in a non-World Cup year is the 4 letters on the front of the box in a world where most people don't even see the box anymore because they buy the game digitally. Saying that, Wilson reportedly said, during World Cup years, the added authenticity of having a digital version of the international tournament is important, but not the most important thing. So there you go. Wilson also said he had discussed his complaints with FIFA president, wrapping the financial and game design issues together, saying, listen, the money is a thing. We don't want to pay more money than this license is worth, but it's not about that. It's really about our ability to deliver games and experiences that our fans want in a timely fashion. There you go. So, last year, EA filed for European and British trademarks for EA Sports FC, suggesting the potential rebranding of FIFA licensing discussions fall through. So yeah, FIFA may lose EA and their partnership, and that would be, like a relationship that's 30 years in the making. But FIFA is, I guess they thought they had a sure thing. They could just keep asking for more and more money for a relationship that they really don't have to do a lot for. So that would be curious. That would definitely be curious, because even if you're not a big fan of soccer, that is one of the biggest franchises every single year. It makes a ton of money, and I'd be curious to see what happens with all of that. So I had one more story, and I think we're not really going to do it, but the Moto Edge Plus wants to be your alternative to the Samsung Galaxy because, they're saying that the phone starts at about $900. I think the flagship phone actually goes up to about $1,000. It's only $900 thanks to a promotion. But yeah, the Motorola Edge Plus is a new flagship phone. It's a 6.7-inch, 2400 by 1080 OLED, 144 hertz refresh rate, 15-watt key wireless charging, and dual stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos. It has 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, 4800 milliamp battery, and of course, it could be a little bit better if you pay a little bit more money. The point is, this phone looks pretty good, but it does feature the latest Snapdragon processor, but uses old Gorilla Glass, uses its IP rating, or its ability to resist dirt, dust, and water is actually much lower than other flagship phones. And yeah, its cameras aren't exactly that good. So it's a little bit more affordable, but still for $1,000, I feel like if you are looking for a truly cutting-edge phone, this one has to, because Motorola is not a major player in high-end phone market. Like, they had to come in a little bit under because they don't have the benefits or the economies of scale that Samsung and Apple already do. But yeah, this is going to be a hard sale, and curious if Motorola can pull this off, because Google is still struggling to make a flagship phone. It's not easy to break into such a captured market, but hey, if you're interested, you can go check it out, the Motorola Edge Plus. There you go. So with that being said, everyone, I think that's about all we will do today. I hope that you enjoyed it. Sorry, and I don't want to make every show about Russia, Ukraine, but it's going to come up, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll try to keep it as narrow to the technology talking points as we possibly can. So everyone, until next time, thank you for tuning into the program. We'll catch you here soon. We'll have Ralph Bond. Yep, he should be showing up every Friday morning. And more computer technology news, more interviews. Everyone, thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye-bye.